In this lesson, we're going to be creating a new Photoshop project and learning about the different settings you must understand when doing so. When you open up Photoshop for the first time, you're not going to see this list of projects that I have right here. These are projects that I've worked on in Photoshop that are on my computer, that are saved, that I can go and open up. And it's great because it has the most recent projects. So if I do have something like a YouTube thumbnail project that I work on constantly every week or so, when I post a new YouTube video, it pops open right here and I can just reopen it. But if we want to create a new project, or if you're completely new to Photoshop and you're opening up this for the first time, just click this new button. This opens up a new window that has the options for creating your project. The first thing is the name. So let's just call this Photoshop project or Photoshop course. You can name it whatever you want. And then the next thing is the document type. Now the document type, you can customize it or use one of the templates that they have available. See, for example, under photo, you have different options. So if you click one of these document types, it has different sizes. So down here, if you drop down any of these menus just by clicking them, it has different options. Say you have a portrait photo that you want the vertical portrait size of a 5:7, and this is in inches. You can choose that option. And below, it matches the different options that you have for this template. You can then customize it if you want, but these are the typical templates that you can use. Say you're doing something for your typical paper, US size, 8.5 inches wide by 11 inches tall. These are the templates that come with Photoshop. But for a lot of us, we're going to be creating a custom template or a custom project depending on what it is. If we're creating a design for the web, maybe we're editing our profile image or doing a blog graphic. These things are meant to be different sizes, and usually you have to have a size in mind in the beginning when you're creating your design before you start designing it, rather than just go custom and just do any size. So you have to know what size you want to create in the beginning. For example, say we're creating a profile image. Most profile images are square images, and we know that the pixels are around 1000 by 1000. It continues to increase as screen resolutions do increase, but we set our width and our height first. Now you can choose how it's represented in inches, but we're going to use pixels, which is typical for online and computer graphics or photos. We do it in pixels. And the best way I can explain what a pixel is by comparing it to your screen resolution. You've probably heard before that an HD video is 1920 by 1080 pixels. This is the size of a HD video, or maybe this is the resolution of the screen of your computer or your phone or even your TV. Pixels are a way to represent distance. So here we have a width of 2550 pixels by 3300 pixels. If we want it to be a square of 1000 by 1000 pixels, we can just type in 1000 by 1000. You can also do any other. Say we're creating a YouTube thumbnail, we can do a YouTube thumbnail of 1280 by 720. Now these are just numbers that I have off the top of my head because I've created projects so many times, but you might need to look up online to find out exactly how many pixels do you need, what's the size for whatever project you're doing. So let's just go back to 1000 by 1000 pixels. This will be a square image. The next thing is the resolution. The way that we understand this with Photoshop is this option right here, pixels per inch, or PPI. It's set up right now with a resolution of 300, which is your standard print pixels per inch. And really what this means is when you are printing something, it has 300 pixels per inch of that document you're creating. The higher the resolution, the more pixels per inch, the finer detail it will be. So a resolution of 1 pixel per inch will look very blurry because literally only one color can be within that inch. So every square inch of your document will be one color. With 300, that means there's lots and lots of little dots, little pixels in that inch, and that creates more definition and sharper edges. For screen images for your web, for video, for online viewing, it's recommended to use 72 pixels per inch. And in between, you can do something like 150. This is also good for printing and also higher quality images online. For us, we're just going to use 72 since this is a profile image for online viewing. The next option is the color mode. You have a few. You have RGB, CMYK, grayscale, bitmap, lab color. We're just basically going to understand RGB and CMYK. RGB is the basic Photoshop computer graphics color. CMYK is more for printing. So if you know you are going to be printing your images, you can use CMYK, which stands for cyan, magenta, yellow, and black. Those are the colors of your printer. But if you are just creating something to be viewed on screen, on the internet, anywhere online, just use RGB, which is red, green, blue. Even for printing things at home, RGB is fine. This other option right here is 8-bit, 16-bit, or 32-bit. Now, I'm not going to go into too much detail because it gets kind of confusing, but basically what this means is how many shades of a color can you have within your photo that you're editing. 8-bit means that there are 256 shades of red, 256 shades of green, 256 shades of blue, which really means 16.8 million different colors that you can create or use in this project. For most projects, you want to use 8-bit. If you are editing photos, if you're outputting to the web, if you're editing a lot of photos, just use 8-bit. When you increase it to 16-bit, it increases the file size, and you can see that estimate of the file size over here in the bottom right of this window. So if I go from 16-bit to 8-bit, you see it go from 2.86 megabytes to 5.72 megabytes. And so just working with a smaller file size will be good. And when you're actually taking photos with any camera, it's recording it or shooting that photo in 8-bit. So there's really no reason to increase it to 16-bit. The only reason to increase your project to 16-bit is if you're doing a lot of gradients, using a lot of large brushes in your images. And these are things we can go over in the future, but really you're not going to need to use that. You have 16 million colors with 8-bit, and so you don't really need more colors than that for most projects. So just leave it at RGB color and 8-bit. Down here you have your background content. So for your project, if you don't have a photo that's the full size of your project, then you can have a white background. You can choose to have a different background color if you want, just by choosing background color, clicking on the white box right there and choosing the color that you want, or a transparent background. Say you're creating a graphic that just has text or images that cover part of your project, and this is going to be layered onto something else later. For example, you can actually use Photoshop to create titles that you then put in a video, and you want that background to be transparent. That's when you would choose transparent, but we're just going to create white right now. Down here in the advanced settings, there are some options if you are using color profiles and you want to match certain types of projects. So if you're editing videos and you're using a specific type of camera, or if you have a specific screen that you're creating a project for, you can use those, but we don't really need to use any of those. Just use the RGB standard one that's there. That's perfect for 99.999% of projects that you'll ever do. And then the same thing for the pixel aspect ratio. There's different options if you're creating projects for different size screens, but just use square pixels. And then you click OK. That opens up this project, and now we have this 1000 by 1000 pixel square image with a white background. You see here in the layer panel down on the right that we have this white background. That was a lot, but I hope that this really helps you understand how to open up Photoshop and create a new project for really any type of graphic or photo that you want to edit. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next lesson.